Welcome back. This is the third and final lesson for you guys for this week. It has more to do with volume. So last time's lesson was all about volume and finding volume a few different ways. This time we're going to be dealing with more volume, but expanding on it a little bit. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Remember to listen for the key word. So here we are taking and looking at combining volumes. This is 12-6, combining volumes. So how can you use volume formulas to solve problems? A storage building has this shape and size. The warehouse supervisor wants to find the volume of the building to determine how much space is available. What is the volume of the building? So looking at this building, obviously we have a lot going on in here. We've got, it is a prism. It's not a regular prism, but it is a prism with this L shape for the base. Now, finding the volume of this, we don't really have an area of the base per se and then be able to multiply by the height because there's obviously a lot going on in this picture. So, what do you think? How can we take and find the volume of the building? Hopefully, you're thinking about the fact that we could split this into more than one rectangular prism because we know how to find the volume of a rectangular prism. Sorry, let me try and get this situated. Maybe. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so if we split this into two rectangular prisms, let me get my marker open. There's a few different ways we can split this. So one way to split this would be to extend this side all the way down, and then we'd have this rectangular prism over here, and we'd have this smaller one over here. Another way would be to cut it, so not having that way, would be to cut it here, and then we'd have this top one and we'd have this bottom one. So different ways to take and do it. Either way you do it, so long as you're careful in your calculations, you should end up with the exact same answer. So it's just what you're more comfortable with. I'm going to go ahead and leave it as is for how I'm cutting it. So having the base and then having this bottom rectangular prism and then having the top rectangular prism. So looking at this, there's a lot of numbers going on, so you have to be super careful. The 12 meters here is the full height. So the height of this upper rectangular prism, if we look back here, it tells us it's 5. So we've got a 5 times, now we know the height, what's the width, or what's the width in here? Well, it's 4. And then the length is the 9. So these are our three values that we're going to multiply together to find the volume of the small one. So I'm going to name this 1. And this one's 2. So then for 2, let's look at its dimensions. Well, we're not going to use this 12. This 12 is not going to be used because it's the full value for the base. It's this full dimension here, and we're not doing that full dimension in this case. So sometimes you won't use some of the values that are given to you because they represent the whole rather than part of the smaller. Okay, so on this one, we've got the 10, that's the full length of this, so we'll have 10 times, we know the width is 9, and the height is only 7. So even though we had that 12 over there, we're not using that for our height. So now we need to take and multiply these things. So 5 times 4 is 20. And then we'll take 20 times 9. 9 times 2 is 18. So we add a 0, so 180. So that's our volume of this top one. Now we look at the volume of the bottom one. So 9 times 7 is 63. So we have 10 times 63. 10 times 63 equals 630. So now we have the two different volumes for each of the two parts of our figure. Now we're going to add these together. 0 plus 0 is 0. 8 plus 3 is 11. Carry the 1. 6 plus 1 is 7, plus another one is 8. So our volume is 810 units cubed. So remember, always have a label on there. When we're combining, you're going to be adding these volumes together. So what we did here is we separated or decomposed our figures. So decomposed is your key word for this lesson. Decomposed. Because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be decomposing all of these figures to take and find the volume. All right, we've got another one that we're going to run through for a little more practice with this. So here's our figure. We want to find the volume. So we've got our 8 foot, 6 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, and a 4 foot here. So this 2 foot is the distance between this L shape and the back L shape. So that's going to be the same for all of those values. So this is also 2, this is 2, this is 2. So keep that in mind, that's 2. All those are the same. So I'm going to take and cut it like this time. So we've got this rectangular prism over here and this one over here. So remember, there are different ways to take and split these apart. So just because I did it this way doesn't mean you couldn't have divided it here and done it like we did the last one. That's perfectly acceptable, okay? All right, so on this one, we're going to use the 8 and the 4. So for 2, we'll have 8 times 4 times. Now remember, I said this dimension is 2 all the way around, so we've got that. And then for 1, here we've got the 3 and the 2, but we don't know what this length here is, right? We know this whole bottom side is 6, but we don't know what just this portion is. But if we look up here, from here to this blue line was 4 foot. So 6 minus 4 is 2. So this is 2 foot. So you might have to do a little bit of subtraction to calculate these things because they may not give you all the different parts of the dimensions. Sometimes you're going to have to use what's given as you decompose this to help you. Okay, so this is 2 foot then, so we'll multiply by another 2. So looking back up here at this one, we have 8 times 4 is 32. So we've got 32 times 2, which equals 64. Excellent. And then down here, 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. Excellent. And what do we do with these two, 64 and 12? We add them together. It's supposed to be an addition sign, not a multiplication. So 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So the volume of this is 76. Whoops, you can't see that. Is 76 feet cubed. So because this one has our dimension of feet, it's telling us what we're measuring this in. We're going to include the feet cubed when we say it. So there's our answer. So like I said, this is all about decomposing these figures. So remember, decomposed is your keyword for this lesson, decomposed. So keep that in mind. It's all just an extension of the volume that we did in the previous lesson. So you're multiplying the different parts together, the length times width times height. And then in this case, you're going to be combining it together. So you're going to take these rectangular, these kind of strange looking figures and split it down into rectangular prisms. So then you can take and multiply each individually and then add them together. Alrighty? Once again, if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Be sure you're submitting your keyword on Canvas, and also make sure you get your assignments submitted. Make sure they're nice and clear to read. All right, have a wonderful day and happy mathing.